Hi there, welcome to Tarotland Soap Opera. Today I'm going to do a reading for Gemini energy, and like usual we're going to do two rows. The top row I'll refer to as high vibe Gemini, the bottom row a more worldly shadowy Gemini energy, because we've all got free will and we have to make decisions in our life, and our more high vibrational nature of hope and faith and belief in ourselves and in our dreams and in love might be trying to get us to move forward in life in that energy. But our more worldly shadowy energy, which can be our fear and our insecurity and our pride and our ego and our lack mentality and lust and greed and immaturity and petty and envious and jealous nature, could all make us and just wanting to stay in our comfort zone could win the argument, and we keep kind of living our life the way we've been living it. And that could be what some people are battling within themselves right now, but there's going to be other people. They did move forward in life differently. The truth sets us free. We heal, we grow, we mature, we expand our perception of ourselves and the world around us or something, and we move forward in life differently. We chose to align with our more hopeful, believing nature in truth and love. And there's going to be other people, they're not ready to move forward differently, could be happy living their life the way they're living it, and they're going to keep living their life the way they're living it, Gemini energy is about our dualistic nature and what our truth is. And the truth is, some people are more about themselves. Love is supposed to be just and fair, where you treat other people the way you like to be treated, and for some people that's not their truth. They have their own idea of what is just and fair. Some people don't like to be just and fair. Some people don't like to act with character and integrity. Some people in their Gemini energy of their truth could be more about the world, ego, image, money, materialism, being indulged in their ego or their immature ways of being. And we just need to see the truth of it. Everybody's at where they're at. Life's about learning lessons. Some people have learned some more lessons than some other people, and they are more just and fair and authentic and loving and nurturing and supportive and have better self-discipline than some other people. And just like you could see that in regards to some people in your life, some of those people see that with some people in their life. Doesn't mean we're all on the same page at the same time, but everybody can kind of see with different people in their life who is more aligned with their truth, who isn't, who's more immature, who's more prideful, who's more stubborn, etc. Let's go look at the top row first. The reason for the top row's reading is the Nine of Cups. It's also the reason why the reading came out. High vibe energy is about being more independent, offering yourself that cup of love, to walk away from things, illusions that you have, things that used to emotionally confuse you. You've seen the truth that it's supposed to be about love and loving yourself. And you offered yourself that cup of love to be more independent of an aspect of your more worldly, shadowy, immature nature. But you might know some people, they're still maybe harnessing that energy in a more worldly, shadowy way, which can just be they like living their life the way they live it, they find it emotionally fulfilling, and you maybe didn't. We come in contact with all these different people to help us get more clear about what our truth is and our truth isn't. And you could have lived your life at a way of living life that you at one time found emotionally fulfilling. But then as time went by, you could have felt like you didn't find it as emotionally fulfilling. It's just like when we were age 18, we lived our life like an 18-year-old. It was emotionally fulfilling. But as we got closer to being more like a 21-year-old, some people were motivated to live life more like a 21-year-old and detach from their more 18-year-old view of life. And just like we did that then, we do that throughout our life. And when some people are ready to move forward and detach and become emotionally independent of some old ways of living life and viewing life, some other people aren't. So for some of you, that's just what it is. But in a more shadowy way, you could know some people who like to be indulged in a relationship, and they are more about themselves. They indulge themselves. They think that's just and fair. They think other people should indulge them. You know, the Nine of Cups is Pisces energy. Emotionally, what we find fulfilling, what our dreams are. Some people want to make their life all about indulgence or themselves or ego or image. Other people want to free themselves from having those things manipulate them, their more immature worldly nature, and some people don't. So we end up seeing the truth of it. Then we have the Two of Pentacles, the Magician, the Six of Wands, and the World. So the World card is about learning these lessons. We go through these stages of life. We view life certain ways. Initially, when we were in it, yeah, we could have thought that was living the dream. That was going to be so fun. And we did do it. But then we have the Two of Pentacles, the Magician, and the Six of Wands. We could have kind of been, we're constantly, the Two of Pentacles, we're trying to figure out what is my truth, what isn't my truth. Is it this? Is it this? And, there comes a point in our time, in our life, where some people pick a path. And we can be at that stage of life in the Two of Pentacles where we really haven't picked a path. Am I going to make decisions in my life based on truth and love? Or am I going to align with my more worldly nature, maybe fearful nature, codependent nature? And when we were in that energy, we could have been in relationships with other people who were in that energy. But if during the course of that job, friendship, or relationship, in the Magician, that's Gemini and Virgo energy, where someone does do some of the inner work to free themselves from their more egoic nature, because the Six of Wands and the Five of Wands is Leo energy, and it can be, still in our ego about, I don't know, how am I going to live my life? What is my truth? And we can move forward with people and try to manifest with people, but then we could realize, that in our Gemini, Virgo, Leo, Capricorn energy, as time goes by, we kind of realize we harness those energies differently. Capricorn energy, what do we view as being victorious in the world? Gemini, Virgo, what is my truth? Is it more about looking victorious and successful in the world? Is that the driving factor in my life, or indulgence? Is it more about ego and image and money and materialism? Or is it, I'm inspired to free myself from things that manipulate me. I don't like my more worldly nature manipulating me. My lust, my greed, my pride, my ego, my codependent nature. And high vibe people do some of this inner work because they want to be free. The Six of Wands takes inspired action to detach and move away from the Five of Wands. And the Five of Wands is where we have this inner conflict, which can be the Two of Pentacles. What is my truth? What isn't my truth? And if I keep doing life the way I do it, yeah, by worldly standards, by the world, I might look victorious and successful. But is it aligned with truth and love and my truth? Is it high vibe Leo? Am I living my authentic life? Or is it more because I'm being manipulated? Am I operating more from my ego or my defensive nature or my more immature nature? Am I in a job and friendships and relationships with people who motivate and inspire me to love and believe in myself? Or am I moving forward with people who, in shadowy Leo energy, are more about their pride and ego, or more manipulative, or they juggle and they don't really invest in me? What is our truth? Are we on the same page? If I feel like I'm in something that I feel I kind of am seeing the truth, that it is a little bit more about ego or image or codependency or status, and that's why I stay in this job, this friendship, or this relationship, I don't like feeling like I'm manipulated. And I don't want to be manipulated by those things. So then high vibe people do this work within themselves to offer themselves that cup of love, to try to get more balance within themselves. Wait a minute, I don't want to be doing these things because of these things that manipulate me. I don't like feeling like I'm being manipulated by myself or others. And I'm going to start putting in this work and effort to work through my inner conflict that makes me kind of juggle and kind of go back and forth, because I want to put an end to that. The world, again, talks about learning the lessons you're meant to learn so you can be set free. I want to get to the truth. With the Magician card being Gemini Virgo energy, high vibe Virgo energy within all of us is about, I want to get to the truth. What is it that drives and motivates me, that makes me live my life the way I do it? What about the people I'm hanging out with? Why are they hanging out with me? Why do they want to be in a relationship with me? What drives and motivates them in this workplace or friendship? Are we both, and all of us, motivated and inspired to free ourselves from things that manipulate us? Or are we, some are and some aren't? Do some just want to come with because they get to indulge in it, but they're not really harnessing these energies in a high vibe way? They're not being more authentic, more loving and encouraging and supportive. Their truth is they're more about, it works for them, it's good for their ego and image, they want to come with. Well, I don't want you to come with if the reason is because of ego and image. If that's still what manipulates you and is a driving factor in your life, we all put in work and effort to have stability and security and enjoy the finer things in life. But I want to be in relationships with people who are more independent of their more worldly, egoic view of life, that want to be in a more balanced, truthful, authentic, inspiring, loving relationship, kind of having hope and faith and belief in their dreams and in love. And that's the energy high vibe people are in. And those people are detaching and willing to detach from people in their life. They've detached and put an end to being more caught up in illusion about themselves, about the world, thinking these other things are what's going to make them happy. They've already been enlightened to the truth that love is what makes it all worthwhile. I want to be in a job that I love. I want to be working with other people that are encouraging and supportive. I want to be in friendships with people who are loving and encouraging and supportive. And if I'm that type of person, those are the type of people I want to be in a relationship with. Not people who want to indulge in continuing to juggle, and it's more about the ego or the image, or that's what drives and motivates them. And high vibe people are willing to detach. When they detach from indulging their more worldly, egoic nature, and they stop aligning with that energy within themselves, and they get more inspired to be more independent of that and have more hope and faith and belief in themselves and in their dreams, and wanting to be in relationship with people who are on the same page as them, they kind of automatically kind of distance themselves from people who harness that energy in a more worldly way, because those people aren't inspired to get out of their more competitive nature, ego nature, manipulative nature, whatever manipulates them. And it's like, I freed myself. Those things don't manipulate me the way they used to. And I want to move forward with other people who are ready to move forward in life differently. And I'm going to detach and put an end to aligning with people who kind of want me to repeat this old pattern. I've already been there and done that. And I maybe don't find it as emotionally fulfilling as I once did. You know, just like how at different times in your life you could have made your life all about, indulgence, or more about what you wore or what you drive. It's like, I just kind of am inspired to look at life differently. I don't find it emotionally fulfilling like I used to, and I want to become independent of that way of living life. And because you're willing to detach from some old ways of viewing life, it's like giving birth to a new foundation of self. You looked at the things that are good building blocks that you want to take with you, and you've kind of realized what things you've kind of outgrown or aren't conducive to the dream that you have, and you're willing to detach from some of those things. Some of the people in our life, they're still not ready to do that. Maybe at some future point in time they will, maybe they won't. But we listen to our intuition to kind of live our truth, wishing other people peace and love, but there might be some things I don't want to indulge in. Put an end to indulging in some things or ways of living life or viewing life. They just don't. I kind of got out of my ego about it, or my inner conflict that could have made me choose those things and live my life that way to begin with. I had some inner conflict. I was kind of felt like I was going back and forth. I don't want to feel like I'm going back and forth and have this inner conflict. I want to be free of it. So I do this work within myself to figure out what it is and why I'd stay. And my dreams can only come into reality with other people who are on the same page as me. And if some people aren't, I wish them peace, but I'm going to keep moving on. If they want me to indulge them in their juggling, in their more worldly nature, in their more ego nature, in their more manipulative nature, or if they're just more caught up in making their life about those things in the world, that's just not my truth. And I think the first 30, 40 years of our life, we are pretty much indulging in the world. Capricorn energy of the Two of Pentacles can represent these things of the world and all these things that we want to manifest in the world, and that we've been told if we make our life about that, we'll be happy. If we indulge in that, that's living the life. And we did it. But, there comes a point in time where we're moving forward like that, and then it's not as emotionally fulfilling, or it doesn't keep staying as emotionally fulfilling as it once did. And that's us listening to our intuition that it's time to detach from an old way of living life, face our fears, to move forward in life differently, become more independent of that way of living life and viewing life, and love and believe in ourselves. Now, why could we be tempted in our more worldly nature to keep doing life the way we've been doing it? Because of the Empress. So the Empress is Libra Taurus energy. Again, Taurus is also like Capricorn Earth sign energy. And Libra is about what we think is just and fair. For the first 30, 40 years of our life, there's every phase of life that we're at, we think it's just and fair to live our life that way, and to a degree it is, because that's how we viewed life. That was our emotional maturity level. We got lessons to learn. You can't expect people who are 15, 18, 21, 25 to act like 35-year-olds. They got a lot of lessons to learn, and the way they view the world and what they think is just and fair is different than people who are either more emotionally mature than them or have more life experience than them, And we all have these things that we love and that we want to invest our time, energy, and effort into. We also could have been in more codependent energy, looking outside of ourselves for people to love us and maybe provide that stability and security for us, instead of us believing in ourselves, being more independent, loving ourselves, believing in ourselves, feeling stable and grounded within ourselves. And we can look to other people to play that role in our life. Won't you love me? Won't you validate my worth and value? Isn't it about giving birth to these things in the world? Isn't that the most important thing? And we were caught up in it. So we have the Seven of Cups, the Eight of Pentacles, the Sun, and the Knight, or the Page of Pentacles. So, the Sun and the Six of Wands are both Leo energy. The Seven of Cups can talk about, initially we kind of are really caught up again in the world, and we think that's just and fair, and we have these illusions. We're still kind of caught up in the illusion that if I put in work and effort, that's Eight of Pentacles, Virgo energy, if I put this work and effort into looking victorious and successful, but again, am I in a career, or am I in friendships and relationships with people that are authentic and loving and motivated and inspired by love, or did I get in a more mismatched relationship where I could have hope and faith and belief and love, I'm more independent. I'm willing to learn lessons in life, but maybe I get in a relationship with someone who does operate more from their defensive, egoic nature, or they're just kind of caught up in the world, ego image. Some of them could be full of themselves. And that's what drives and motivates them. In our Gemini nature, we can be more aligned with the world. We can be caught up in the illusion of the world. The most important thing is to put in work and effort to look like a shining star in the world, to look victorious and successful. That's the most important thing. And, we were all at that stage of life. But as we learn lessons in life, and hopefully as we learn to love and believe in ourselves, because the Empress energy can be about love, and the Empress energy doesn't have to be male or female. It talks about how people think and feel. Is how I read tarot. The feminine figures reflect how we think and feel. We've all kind of lived our life like that, but hopefully during the course of our life, in Taurus energy, this is Libra Taurus energy, hopefully we learn these lessons in life. And as we learn these lessons in life, we keep adding those lessons that we learn into our decision making and how we make decisions in our life. And hopefully we grow and mature ourselves in love. And we learn to treat other people the way we like to be treated. And we know that we need to put an end to kind of being more about ourselves and egotistical or self-centered. It's all about me. Some people learn those lessons, and throughout their life, they go on these journeys in life to learn these lessons, hopefully learning to maintain balance within themselves, to be less codependent, and learn to feel more balanced and stable within themselves, learn these lessons. And as they go through life, they pick up their investment in an old way of living life and viewing life to believe in themselves. I think I can go to the next stage of life. I don't want to keep indulging myself in a certain phase of life where I'm not growing and healing and maturing myself to my full potential. And I'm going to detach from continuing to indulge in that old way of life, because my more hopeful, believing spirit wants me to give birth to the next version of myself, Like my nesting dolls over there. We were 15, we were 18, we were 21, we were 25, we were 30, we were 35, we were 40. Hopefully we shed old layers of ourself, and we don't keep acting in a more immature, codependent, egotistical, self-centered, living a life of illusion, that I can keep living my life like that and expect to be able to be in relationships with people who are more balanced, who have gotten out of their more immature egoic ways of being, who put an end to indulging themselves, who are more independent. And for me to think I can be in more immature shadowy energy and be in a relationship with someone like that, yeah, that's kind of living in fantasy land. But there are people who think that, right? We all know some people who are immature, prideful, egotistical, stubborn. And they think, well, you should want to be my friend. You should want to stay at this job and work for me. Let me be your supervisor. It's like, no, you have some illusions about yourself, and you have some illusions about life. And there's some people right now, they could be kind of immature and codependent, and they look for more maybe loving, nurturing, just, fair, balanced people. Well, I want to seem like I'm that type of person. I'm not that type of person. I haven't learned to love my inner child nature, to temper my ego. I kind of, in my ego, indulge my more immature nature. And I have this illusion, that's just and fair. I'll just go get in a relationship with someone who isn't like me, because I like to be in relationships with people who are more balanced and inspiring and loving and encouraging, who aren't more self-indulgent, who are more independent of their shadowy nature. I like to be in a relationship with people like that. That's great. And it's kind of like someone, whether they're male or female, that they're kind of looking for someone to play this role in their life. Like, how about you be the loving, nurturing person in my life? Like maybe my mom or my dad in a way. And I get to keep being immature. But because you love me, you'll indulge me in my poor behavior. And we can all have done that. Having hope and faith and belief and love. Oh, I will get them to love and believe in themselves and put an end to their more self-indulgent nature, and they will give birth to being a more independent, just, fair, balanced, loving, authentic person. Well, the whole thing is, we might have been in fantasy land. If they were motivated and inspired to be that type of person, they would have already detached from their more immature, self-indulgent, prideful, immature ways of being, and they would have been more on the same page as you. But, you know, we think we can change people. Yes, can love and encouragement help offer those to people? The thing is, they have to do this work within themselves to free themselves. And some people are like, well, you know, the truth sets us free. And some people don't want to see the truth. What? I'm supposed to learn to love myself? Well, no, that's not how I view life. I go get in relationships with people for them to love me. I think that's the answer to my problems. Or I'll just get in a relationship with a loving, just, fair person. I don't really have to be that type of person. You know, they don't want to deal with the truth. Virgo and Virgo, Leo and Leo, they harness their Virgo, Leo, Gemini energy differently. What they align with within themselves is more, I don't have to do that inner work. I might have inner conflict about seeing the truth that maybe I am kind of immature. Because they also can view themselves as a just and fair and loving person, and that's why you could get in a relationship with them, because in a way they do seem very maybe just and fair and loving. It's you coming into contact with other people who seem like you. That's why you get in relationships with them and maybe stay in relationships with them. But as time goes by, you kind of realize you harness these energies differently. They want to keep moving forward in a way of living life where they maybe don't have to detach from anything that they indulge in. And if that's their more worldly nature, that's what's most important. That's what drives the decisions they make in their life. Their ego, their defensiveness, their immature nature, they're more consumed with status or image or money and materialism. The whole thing is, or they just want to keep, that's how they view life. I think it's just and fair to be caught up in the illusion of the world. They could have gotten in a relationship with you thinking you were always going to be more willing to stay in a relationship because of codependency. I'm in a relationship. Let's stay in a relationship. Let's put in work and effort to look victorious and successful. But let's stay in codependent energy. Or let's keep being immature. Let's never give birth to being more independent in the world. But somewhere in the course of the relationship, you dealt with some of the things, past pain and heartbreak, fear, insecurity, whatever, more being in a more codependent relationship. And it's like, I want to be in a more, I thought we were both motivated to be more independent. I didn't think the world was the most important thing in the world. I didn't think money and materialism and status and image or just staying in a relationship out of fear and codependency or insecurity was the driving force. I thought we were all going to do this work to free ourselves from things that manipulate us. I didn't think we were going to repeat this pattern forever and keep making our life more about, you know, being in a relationship. You know, it can look victorious and successful, but I thought we were going to put an end to being more immature. I thought we were all going to more emotionally grow and mature ourselves and make better decisions in our life. And the other person could be like, huh? What? Why would we do that? This is great. We should just keep doing this. I love this. Look, we look victorious and successful. Look, we're in a relationship. Look, we don't have to face our fears or insecurities. Let's both stay in more codependent energy. Let's both not give birth to anything new. And it's kind of stagnant, dead energy. And some people don't want to put an end. They think it's just unfair to indulge their more immature nature. They want you to indulge your more immature nature, stay in a relationship or a job with them, and keep doing this over and over. And it's like, I periodically go through my issues and I become independent of them. And I see you don't. Because some people in their Virgo energy, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to look at things I prefer to keep hidden in the dark. I don't want to see through the illusion of the world. I don't want to see how I might be more prideful or egotistical, or like being in more codependent relationships, or like to be in relationships with people who are more codependent on me. Then I get to view myself as this loving, supportive person, but I don't ever want you to get out of your own inner conflict and become more independent. I like you being codependent on me, because then I view myself as this loving, just and fair, stable, grounded person. It's like, well, you can have been like that and you can seem like that, but you don't want me to be more independent, And then some of those people have people in their life, because we all have these different people in our life. We have our dualistic nature. We have people in our life that are a little bit more aligned with their worldly nature, shadowy nature, prideful nature, manipulative nature, immature nature. We have other people in our life who are more hopeful and believing and encouraging. And, we could want to move forward with some people, but they're not willing to become independent from some people in their life that like them being codependent on them. Whether that's their friend group or an original family group or something, those people don't want them to be more independent of them, to go live their more authentic life. And some of the people we wanted to be in relationship with, they're not willing to become more independent. If they're codependent on their friend group or their original family group that can kind of manipulate them and use the love that they have for them to manipulate them, then they wanted us to stay in a relationship, letting those people be like a third party in our relationship. But that is like the primary relationship and you're like the third party. Well, if they say, no, I'm not going to do that. But are we dating? Are we married? Do we have children? But yet they're still the most important foundation in your life? Yeah, I need to become independent of this. Because I'm in a relationship with someone who's codependent on their ego, on their fear, of their defensive nature, of their friend group, of their original family group or something. And I got caught up in illusion and I wasn't seeing the truth. That some people are defensive, some people are immature, some people are quite prideful and egotistical, some people like to be in relationships with more codependent people. They, in their own way, are codependent. And if they don't want to become independent with us, then we kind of see we're not on the same page. And those people are probably going to... They could be confused. Because if some people haven't ever learned to really... If people are very codependent and they always look outside of themselves to other people to be the answer and other things to be the answer... I'm going to drink, I'm going to do drugs, I'm going to eat, I'm going to get in a relationship, I'm going to have status and image and power and money. I'm sure all those things are the answer to me freeing myself from what manipulates me. No, love is the answer, but some people haven't realized that. Other people did this work within themselves to love themselves, to free themselves from things that manipulated them, and they've moved on in life. And other people are confused about how some people did that. How did you seem to have put in this work and effort to move forward differently, to be more independent. But sometimes shadowy people, it is more all about creating this illusion I'm more stable, I'm more grounded, I've changed, I've matured, but they really haven't. Some of those people think your high vibe people are just putting on a better illusion than they are. How do you seem to be so much more independent? Why aren't you being more codependent? Why aren't you acting more out of pride or ego or immaturity or lust or greed or pride or ego? Because that's what they're doing, but they could be trying to create an illusion that that's not what is driving and motivating them. And the reason is because you're not tipped out of balance in your ego. You've gotten balance within yourself. You're taking slow, steady steps. That's like high vibe Virgo energy. In truth and love, being inspired to let love and intuition guide the decisions you make so that you don't repeat an old pattern. I've already been there and done that. I've already lived my life like that. I've already been in relationships with people who are like that. I don't want to do that anymore. And as people do that, they close out this old way of living life. They're not the same person they were before. They have become independent. And other people keep trying to give birth to something new, and they don't understand, and they could be confused why it's not working. Well, what drives and motivates you? Is it love? Is it treating other people the way you like to be treated? Are you being authentic? Or is it more driven by ego, codependency, money, materialism, status, image? Well, that's probably why it doesn't seem to be working out the way they want. Or if they do get into something new and it looks like they maybe gave birth to something new, the sun can represent like a new beginning, just like the Six of Wands moving forward victoriously. Other people could be doing that too, but why doesn't it seem like this? It's like, well, because the other people weren't trying to manipulate people. They aren't getting into it for the wrong reasons. They're actually motivated and inspired by truth and love, knowing their worth and value, offering love to themselves to maintain balance within themselves, being more independent so they're not as tempted in their lust and their greed and their codependence and their pride and their ego. But the other people just still have some lessons learned. They still could be tempted just to be in a relationship because they want to look like they moved on, or look how victorious and successful I am. It's like, well, that's not a good reason to be in a relationship. No wonder it maybe isn't working out. You're not in the relationship for the right reasons. Or you're looking for someone to indulge you in your more immature nature. And then you wonder why it doesn't seem like relationships that other people have that are inspiring and loving and authentic. It's like, well, because that's not the energy you were in when you got in the relationship you got into. You were more driven to find someone to, like, you can see how that's kind of selfish, right? I'm in this shadowy kind of energy. I'm looking for someone to love me. It's like, well, first you need to love yourself so you're not in that more codependent energy. Appreciate what you bring to the table. Detach from some poor habits that you might need to detach from, or negative self-talk or ways of whatever, to be more inspired. Be in that energy, and then get in looking for other people who are in that same energy. And some people think, no, I don't have to be in that energy. I can confuse people about the truth. I'll just put in work and effort to look like I harness high vibe Leo energy, that I'm loving, I'm warm, I'm authentic. High vibe Libra Taurus, that I'm this just and fair pillar of society. You should get in a relationship with me. That's kind of a trying to manipulate people and confuse people, when you know the truth is you indulge your more immature nature. What drives and motivates you is ego or image or money or just yourself. Well, that's not high vibe energy. High vibe energy is truth and love. You treat other people the way you want to be treated, and you are authentically yourself. And some people are like, no, I want to live more from my mind than my heart. I might not even want to do deep, meaningful relationships. Kind of a more shadowy Scorpio energy. A more shadowy Leo. I don't really want to be more authentically myself. I could get hurt. People could reject me. I just let my ego run my life, and I let my more immature nature or my more authentic nature is doesn't get to come out to play in the world. Our either more authentic, hopeful, believing, loving nature is who we are in the world, or our more egoic nature is running our life. And then they try to get in relationships with people who could have that more hopeful, believing spirit. Those people have done this work within themselves to be more independent. They want to move forward with them in a victory, and they could get in relationships, they could get married, blah blah, but eventually it kind of comes to an end, because eventually the high vibe people in their life kind of see through the illusion. It's more pride and ego and more about you than being more authentic and loving, where I can have a deep, meaningful relationship with you. You kind of might like to keep your emotions buried more beneath the surface and hope that if people get in a relationship with you because of being in a relationship, the status, the image, whatever, and that there can be love there, but you're never going to become more independent of your defensive egoic nature to be in a more balanced, self-insightful, inspiring, authentic way of being. And then some high vibe people could feel like they're in a relationship with someone who's quite codependent or immature and who also doesn't like them being more independent. Shadowy energy can be you need to conform, you need to stay within these guidelines. Don't be more independent in the world. Don't shine your authentic light. Don't make your life about a higher truth and justice. I make mine about the world. You should make yours about the world. That should be the driving factor in your life, and that's why you should stay in a relationship with me. It's like, well, that's not the driving factor in my life, and now I've worked through my inner conflict about it because I could have love for you, and I wish we would have both become more independent of our more worldly egoic nature to be more authentic and loving. But I could feel like I have all these things of the world, but I'm not in a relationship that's more motivated and inspired by truth and love and authentic and warm and encouraging, where we encourage each other to be more independent, to grow to our full potential. You want to keep repeating this old pattern over and over. Well, they're maybe going to have to go repeat that pattern with someone else because you've been there and done that. And you ended up over time realizing, though in a lot of ways it looked victorious, it wasn't inspired to be more independent or get out of their ego to be willing to learn lessons in life. It's like I'm not the same person I was maybe when I got in this job or this friendship or relationship. High vibe people did the work to get out of their Five of Wands inner conflict, and other people haven't, maybe. So let's see what's coming up for people who harness some high vibe Gemini energy. And as you're doing this, there's other people in the world, that go through this decision making. Some people, if they haven't learned to love themselves, and they might have some issues from childhood, I kind of think subconsciously we can be drawn and attracted to people in our life who subconsciously kind of remind us of people that in our life, maybe mother and father figures, that we wish would have had this more kind of high vibe relationship with us, but we didn't have that with them. And we're still kind of have this wounded ego about that from childhood. And I think we can be drawn and attracted to people who in some ways remind us of those people now that we're not children and we're adults and it's not a family member, it's someone we can get in a romantic relationship with. And this time we want to win. We want it to work the way we want. And that's why we can be drawn and attracted to people who they're not on the same page as us. We see that they're like defensive, they're more materialistic, they're live more from their mind than their heart, or they're immature, but oh, I'm going to change them. And again, it can keep us stuck repeating an old pattern of trying to change other people. And then we realize the fives talk about change. The only person I can change is me. And I have to deal and be illuminated to the truth that I could have kept putting work and effort into a relationship because of a childhood wound. And I need to see the truth. There are people in the world that are like that, have certain traits, qualities, and characteristics. They might never be people who become independent of the things that manipulate them, which could be their childhood wounds. So they keep repeating a pattern. And it's like, I don't want to keep repeating that pattern. I'm going to deal with the truth. There's people in the world that can be bossy, controlling, immature, whatever. I don't have to change them. I can accept they are who they are. It doesn't have anything to do with my worth and value. I don't need them to love me for me to love me. I accept they view life the way they view life. They're comfortable living their life the way they, we all live our life in a way that probably makes us feel stable and grounded. To live our life differently when we're not ready to live our life differently could throw us out of balance and we're not ready for it. And so we just say, you know what? I accept, I'm no longer going to try to change people. I'm going to offer people peace and love and joy, treat them the way I want to be treated. And I'm looking for people who are more on the same page as me. Because to learn these lessons in life can take years and decades. And if they're not someone who's very authentic, learning all these lessons, learning to be more authentically yourself, learning to love yourself, learning to feel more balanced within yourself, picking up your investment in your more worldly nature. All those things, some people will do a lifetime and never get there. So we can have people that we would like to move forward with. We'd like to be in a more loving relationship with. But in our philosophy of life, maybe based on the lessons we've learned in life and what we think is just and fair, we're not on the same page. And we could have, the things that we find emotionally fulfilling, the things that I dreamed of as being like the dream life or the dream type of relationship is different. And high vibe people are able to deal with the truth of that and move on and become independent of it. Other people, they could always be confused when a relationship ends and they don't want to see the truth that it's supposed to be love and truth that are the guiding factors of why they get in relationships, why they stay in relationships. And some people are like, nope, I want to have a new beginning. I'm going to put in work and effort to have a new beginning. I want to look like I got justice in the world. I want these things of the world. I want someone to love me, instead of them learning to love themselves and being more independent and then getting in relationships with other people who are more independent. And they could try to get people who are more independent to, by presenting themselves as harnessing more high vibe energy than they do. And then those relationships end and they don't understand why. And it's like, because the other people aren't creating an illusion. They are being authentic and motivated and inspired by love. It's like, what? People do that? Because it isn't how some people view the world. Some people live very much from their mind. They think everyone is motivated and inspired like they are motivated and inspired by their ego and their image to get in these relationships for this status and this ego and their image, and they just don't get it, some of them. And they may never get it. So, what's coming up for people who harness some high vibe Gemini energy? In their free will, aligned with their more hopeful, believing, loving nature. The High Priestess. Why? because of the Five of Pentacles. So, the High Priestess, again, a feminine figure, just refers to how we think and feel. Cancer, Pisces energy. High Priestess sits back and kind of watches and observes how other people, the decisions people are making in their life. And as we do this work within ourselves to detach from our more worldly, egoic, codependent energy and align with our more hopeful, believing, creative energy, we're a much more wiser person than we were before. We're more connected with our loving, intuitive energy and more intuitive about other people. Why? Because we're not so caught up in the illusion of the world. We've learned these lessons, the Five of Pentacles, lets go of the Four of Pentacles, which is this old way of viewing life that we used to cling to. We've learned lessons in life, and we're aware that some other people haven't learned those lessons, and they're still clinging to a way of viewing life, living life, feeling about themselves, or whatever. And we had went through that, and we did the work to free ourselves to become independent of it, and some other people haven't. So you become this more intuitive, insightful, self-aware person of yourself and others. Why? Because in your Taurus energy, you are willing to deal with the truth and be inspired by truth and love, and you've incorporated that into your philosophy of life as you're moving forward. But some other people, you know, when we're ready to deal with the truth, we'll deal with the truth, and some people aren't willing to put an end to something that they kind of indulge in because they haven't seen the truth about how it keeps kind of, whatever it is that manipulates them, keeps leading them down the same path. Nothing ever changes. They keep wanting to give birth to something new, but they're not seeing the truth. So they're going to keep repeating this pattern until they are illuminated to the truth. For one, that they need to love themselves, quit being in more codependent energy, and become more independent of other things in their life. Could be their mind, could be their more worldly philosophy, could be other people in their life that manipulate them, and become more independent. Otherwise, they're going to keep giving birth to the same thing over and over and over. And when you're going to detach from an old way of living life or viewing life, and you kind of have to detach maybe from some people in your life, high vibe people, because they love themselves and believe in their dreams, high vibe Cancer, Pisces energy, they're willing to go through a period of being left out in the cold. Because I have a dream. And this, I realized, wasn't aligned with my truth. And the other people might not be willing to go through a period of feeling left out in the cold because they haven't learned to love themselves and maintain balance within themselves, to be a loving and encouraging person to themselves for being a fallible human being who had lessons to learn. Offer love and compassion and forgiveness to other people in their past so they can be free of the past. Those things still manipulate them, and they still have a lot of inner conflict about being more independent from their defensive nature, the world, other people in their life, their more immature nature. They keep being tempted by their more worldly, immature nature, thinking that's going to be the answer to their problems, and it keeps not being the answer. That until they see the truth of it, they're going to keep living their life that way. What's coming up for people who harness a more worldly, shadowy Gemini energy? And they keep thinking, if they're more egotistical, they keep thinking maybe because by worldly standards, they do look like they have justice in the world, like that other people would want to be in relationship with them because of what they look like, or their status, or their image, or how much money they have, or whatever. And they keep thinking they maybe just need to find someone who that they think they can manipulate, who, because they can go try to find hopeful, believing, loving people and think that they can manipulate them and tempt them with these things of the world. And initially, yes, they can, but eventually the high vibe people see through the illusion. This isn't because of love. Or they keep thinking, no, 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 I want to keep indulging my more immature, prideful, egoic, all about me nature. And because I have a certain status or ego or image in the world, I think there will be other people, and eventually they might find someone who's on the same page as them. Judgment. Why? Because of the Seven of Cups. They keep thinking judgment will go in their favor. But the whole thing is, you can emotionally confuse some people about the truth of who you are. You can confuse some of the people some of the time, but you can't confuse all the people all the time. And eventually there will, in our pride and ego, pride comes before the fall. Some people think they're so smart, and because they might have these certain assets or attributes in the world, that no, 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 I don't have to do love. I can just create the illusion of being just and fair and emotionally mature and loving. But eventually people call judgment on them. You are creating an illusion. You are more emotionally shallow and superficial and maybe immature or materialistic or egotistical than I realized, because some people wear a good false mask. But eventually other people see through the illusion. And some of those people that are doing that in a relationship right now, some of the people in their life are going to call judgment on them. You create the illusion you're willing to give birth to something new, that you're willing to be more maybe balanced and maybe more inspired, to become more independent of the past or whoever or whatever. But you keep not doing it. You keep turning your back on giving birth to something new. And eventually people see the truth. How long am I going to keep staying in a relationship with someone who says, oh, no, no, I'll do that. And, I'm on the same page. But then they keep turning their back on maybe being more just and fair and acting with character and integrity, or giving birth to something new in the relationship, becoming independent of the past or something, or the world, or their more worldly view of life. And it keeps not happening. And eventually other people call judgment on them. And I am willing to pick up my investment in this and invest in myself, working through my own inner conflict I have about leaving, because I don't find it, my dream isn't going to come into reality here, and I don't find it emotionally fulfilling. And I'm done indulging someone in their more immature, egoic nature, who keeps thinking they don't have to be more authentic, truthful, loving. I'm done. And then the people who will maybe stay in a relationship with them eventually is someone else who creates an illusion, who also could be more superficial and shallow, or materialistic, or immature, or bossy, or controlling, whatever kind of in their own shadowy energy. And then they'll wonder how come they're confused. Well, and it's like, well, because neither one of you have that hopeful, believing spirit. It was the people who had the hopeful, believing, loving spirit that gave that spark of life to the relationship. What? That was what it was? I just for sure thought it was if we had the certain ego and image and had someone to indulge me in my immature nature that I'd be happy. Why am I confused? It's like, because everybody is living more from their mind than their heart, and more caught up in the world. And it's not love and truth that drives and motivates them. That's why it doesn't seem to be as emotionally fulfilling as you thought it would be. It was only when you were in relationships with the people who had that creative, hopeful, believing, loving nature within them, and you're not aligned with it. The hopeful, believing, loving people moved on, and you're in relationships with other people who are like you, and you wonder why it's kind of confusing that it doesn't seem more warm and loving. And it's like, because none of you are in that type of energy, because that's not the type of people you are. But some of them will decide to stay in it anyway. If it looks good by worldly standards, if it looks like they have what other people have, and they can maybe live more from their mind than their heart, it looks like love, it looks victorious and successful, it just might be more out of codependency and insecurity or greed or something. But they're going to have some other people who are going to detach from them. Because who wants to hang out with people who seem more superficial and shallow? Look how wonderful our life is. It's like, yeah, I think this is all fake. I'm going to go find the people who seem to be more authentic and loving and not so caught up in, you should hang out with me. It'll be good for your ego and your image. It's like, yeah, I'm going to let someone else hang out with you. There you go, Gemini. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.